again, YouTube. This is Dr. Kendo, and I'm back with Scribblenauts Unlimited. I'm really hyper, actually. I just saw the Avengers 2 movie, and it was incredible. Oh my gosh, I loved it. But that's for another story. We're starting off with a windsurfer for today's source object and for today's creation of Daredevil. So this is going to be inspired by the Daredevil that's out on Netflix, the 2015 series. We'll get to the background and everything like that a little bit more, just a little bit later in the commentary. Now, I know that Daredevil has two different kind of outfits, I guess, and I'm not very, familiar, I guess, with the specifics of everything for the Netflix series, but I'm going to do the best that I can here. Surely, if something's wrong, I'm never going to stop hearing about it, so whatever. We're going to be doing the kind of Vigilante black costume that he wears, so this is basically just a ninja for the head. You notice that we did have the mask, and the mask usually has the eyes being open with the skin, but obviously Daredevil being blinded, he doesn't need his eyes, and with his Vigilante costume, he kind of has his eyes covered. And so, in keeping with that, I've just completely blacked out the top and the bottom part of the ninja mask, which is almost divided up into 3 sections, and then the bottom black part of the ninja mask, that comes black by default, I should say, has the skin tone color, so just color that skin tone, and it would be enemy, is what we did for the arms, and of course the legs are the male dancer. If you saw that I put those on, we're putting on shoes now, and I did the letter I, which I'm also using right here. The letter I has many purposes. You can use it for the belt, or like I'm doing now, I'm using it to basically make some little billy club type things that he has. He has those little small staffs, and I'm also using the letter I twice within the mask part. I want to basically show that he's got a nose. It just gives it a little bit more detail, so I kind of just blackened out one of the letter I's all the way black, and then just basically put it where his nose would be, coming down slightly, just a little bit. But usually once these creations get to the scripting or properties editor within this game, where you edit, the life, the weapon that it uses, just basically any kind of properties or scripting that you want it to do, I like to read background information or fun facts for anybody who may or may not be familiar with the characters, whoever we're creating. So with today's Daredevil, the TV series is a web series created for Netflix based off of the Marvel Comics character Daredevil. The first season premiered on April 10th, 2015, mostly to praise from critics. Charlie Cox is the actor who plays Matt Murdock / Daredevil, a lawyer by day who fights crime at night. The most basic premise is, dude loses his sight, becomes this hero because all of his other senses are adept. In fact, the showrunners state that, quote, he's not super strong, he's not invulnerable, in every aspect, he's a man that's just pushed himself to the limits. He just has senses that are better than a normal human's. He is human. Now, I know that the comic book character explanation is essentially this. Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is blinded by some radioactive substance that falls from an oncoming vehicle. Despite becoming blind, the radioactive exposure heightens his remaining senses beyond normal human ability and gives him a type of sonar which acts as his vision. Marvel.com actually has a wonderfully detailed explanation of all of his heightened abilities, so I will just paraphrase for the sake of time. Without sight, his sense of touch is sensitive enough to feel impressions of ink on paper, essentially allowing him to read. And he can feel the tiniest of changes in temperature, even enough so to detect those who might be sneaking up on him. And he can even tell approximately how long someone has been dead based on their body temperature. His sense of smell is so strong that he can track an individual person's scent, even in a crowd. His taste is so refined that he can determine every ingredient in any food or drink that he tastes within 20 milligrams of a given substance. His super hearing means that he can hear someone speaking through a soundproof wall or hear a heartbeat from 20 feet away. Things like this make Daredevil pretty amazing, and again, you can Google Marvel.com Daredevil to see the full description of what I was just reading off of. And so, interesting enough, we have started off with a pilgrim as the source object for our next Daredevil version. This is like that classic red outfit or whatever. It's almost like a maroonish red that he wears. Don Quixote is the arms, and go ahead and copy that arm once again, which we're gonna do in just a second. I'm getting all the sizing correct for this current arm, so there we go. I took the back one just so it doesn't have that little dot on it for the Don Quixote stamp. With the pilgrim, you just want to color everything. The costume, I guess, for the classic Daredevil red maroon look on the Netflix series sort of looks like this. I'm just trying to get it within the parameters of Scribblenauts, of course. You can't always just make things an exact, carbon copy of whatever your character you're creating. It's within the the confines of Scribblenauts. Urethane is the buckle on the belt. You want to do this twice. That's Urethane. Urethane, as I understand it, is, just some kind of substance. They often use it in like pesticides and things like that. But anyway, we used a head for the head, of course. So here I'm going to copy the urethane to get the other side of his belt buckle, basically right there. So now we'll take one of Maxwell's brothers. His name is Dale, for the legs right here. The reason that I chose that is just because the legs are proportionately skinny enough to look like it fits with the creation, but also they have those big kind of boots or shoes that he's wearing, so I just thought it was a good compromise with all things, fitting within the Scribblenauts universe. A bald cap turned upside down is going to be the parts of skin, of course, that show from Daredevil's mask here in this classic outfit. This is the Daredevil that I know a lot more. I haven't seen the Netflix series, which I definitely am sad to report. In fact, I don't even have Netflix. Before I forget to say, we are taking a Tooth Fairy wing. It's the from the 29-page library. You just take that little wing shape. We've used this like for the whites of the eyes on Sonic the Hedgehog. We've used it for lots of different things. I feel like it's a really versatile shape, so it fits good here. So that's going to be kind of where the eyes are outlined and everything. I think it actually looks a lot like this Daredevil, but again, I was saying that this is kind of the Daredevil image that I'm almost more familiar with. Of course, Marvel's Daredevil is kind of like this, but it's like all red, it's almost like a blood red outfit, crimson color. The bottom fin of a goldfish right here, this is goldfish, and so that'll serve as the eye for Daredevil. And I did create the nose. It's a little bit lower probably than it's going to end up being right now, but that's just because I want to be able to grab onto it later, and if it was too high up within that mask part, I wouldn't be able to grab it as easily. I'd have to move a whole bunch of other things. So right now, that's just sort of a temporary place for it because I know that I want the nose there, but I want to see the design sort of with all pieces before I move that nose to right about here. And of course, shrink it to be the right size that you want. And within those goldfish fin eyes are a little white dot. That is pimple. So just type in pimple and color it completely white. Scorpion tail. That's take the like almost second to the top piece of the scorpion tail, and that will be his little horns, I think some people's inclination might be to use like horn or something a little bit more obvious, fang, but those be a little bit too big. Daredevil doesn't have like huge devil horns or anything like that, but he's got these horns right here. I've named it Daredevil Classic. Hopefully that works for everybody. I mean, that's just the code name I'm giving it right here. And clip, this would be like a magazine or a gun clip, basically. So clip, I'm just going to make that these two little pieces that are on his armor, kind of near his pecs. So there we go, just finishing up the last little touches and everything. We've used a letter I for a little strap that's on his leg, of course, because he's got his billy club type things, his clubs down there at his, kind of like a holster almost at his hip. So if you saw within our scripting earlier that I've done the Daredevil to basically pick up melee weapons, you can't just type in billy clubs and have it do it exactly. So, if I do type in billy club right here, he'll pick it up because the general category when you're scripting or doing properties is melee weapons. You could also do something like handheld weapons or any of the categories that it gives you basically at that point. So let's see what happens when they fight. We're gonna just take a hostile fighter for lack of anything else that I could think of. It looks like, yep, this Daredevil is fast. I want him to be able to attack fast and basically be good at fighting, so we'll drop something else for him to fight. So why not? The other thing he can fight is a tiger, and honestly, he made mincemeat of that. I mean, what else can we do? Let's do evil hostile monster. Surely that will create some kind of challenge, maybe? I mean, he's already down half health, but nope, the monster goes down. So basically, I've made him super fast and strong, so why not, huh? It's Daredevil, he's badass. But yeah, I want to thank everybody. Again, I just saw the Avengers movie, so I'm hoping to create Ultron pretty soon. So maybe be looking for that in a future episode. I know, I hate to give off spoilers of what's to come and spoil that for you guys, but I kind of did with the Samus creation almost, so whatever, all bets are off. Now, if you notice that the classic Daredevil, I gave a mouth with the cat tail piece, and then the Vigilante Daredevil, I did not give him a mouth. Well, about 78%, I would say, of humans and humanoid characters in Scribblenauts do not have mouths. Sometimes I create them with mouths, sometimes I create them with a nose, sometimes I take off either or both of them. Again, this is not meant to, I know that usually people who are older understand this, but it's not meant to be a exact replica of the character, First of all, Scribblenauts Unlimited Unlimited does have a certain amount of stamp space. Basically, each little piece that you use to create your main object is a stamp, and so you have a limited amount of stamp pieces that you can use for one object. But also, I mean, fitting within the style that Scribblenauts is in, you know, it's typically cartoony looking, so it's like, it's not going to be like a 3D image or, you know, some kind of amazing graphics or something like that. If you get my drift, basically, is what I'm saying, is that, you know, don't expect it to be like the exact spitting image, but it's almost like if you plucked them from their universe and put them into the Scribblenauts universe. That's what I'm doing. So thank you so much, Kendopolis. Your support is great, and it's amazing. Hopefully I show you how much I care in the comments. You know, I always try to reply to your comments. Anyway, go ahead and leave your object requests for what I'm gonna make next down below. It'll be determined on whatever's voted the most popular or asked for by the most amount of different people, and I only take gaming, movie, TV, and nerd and geek culture related objects. And just leave it to like 1 or 2. Don't request like 20 things. And I don't create other YouTubers, so I'll catch you on the next vid, and thanks for viewing. So you can be the viewer and
down the road of twists and turns, always anxious.